Have you ever chased after something you thought would finally fill you up, only to be left emptier than before? Well, that's the story of Israel in the book of Hosea. And honestly, it's the story of every single one of us when we run to counterfeits instead of to covenant. Hello, I'm Christine. If we haven't met, welcome. Here at Train in Truth, I'm your spiritual trainer, providing training to use scripture as strategy for body, soul, and spirit so that you can fear less and lead more. This week, we're digging into Hosea chapter 2, and today we're centering on verse 14 and 15, but I fully recommend, highly suggest, really encourage you to read the whole chapter. Actually, the whole book. But, okay, here's what God says in verse 14 and 15. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. And there I will give her vineyards and make the valley of Achor a door of hope. And there she shall answer as in the days of her youth, as at the time when she came out of the land of Egypt. Now this is a beautiful promise, right? But the backdrop of this chapter is actually, it's heavy. It's raw and it's convicting. And that's what makes God's response so powerful. So, just a little story. There's this bookstore in town called Love Story, okay? And I walked into this romantic little coffee shop not long ago. Twinkling lights, shelves of books, cozy corners, so sweet. It looks like, picture perfect. Almost, I love myself a good coffee shop. It was beautiful. But as I looked closer, the shelves, they were filled with distorted love stories. Crystals that, there was crystals and there was imagery that just really glorified fantasy instead of the creator. These weren't love stories. They were romance novels, right? A whole shop filled with them. And the space was beautiful, but the message was counterfeit. And I realized, at that moment, none of this is love. These aren't love stories. The Bible, that's the real love story. God designed romance, beauty, and intimacy, but when it's twisted, they pull us away from Him, right? They pull us away from Him. Romance novels, they're like porn designed for women. So we need to be on guard for these sorts of things. This counterfeit, though, this counterfeit, this is exactly what God confronted in Hosea 2. Okay, he doesn't sugarcoat Israel's unfaithfulness. It's pretty harsh, some of the language he uses. In verse 2, it says, "Plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, and I'm not her husband, that she put away her whoring from her face and her adultery from between her breasts." In verse 5, it says, "For their mother has played the whore. She said, I will go after my lovers who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink." Yeah, this is the language. This language is in the Bible. It's strong language. God calls idolatry what it is. It's spiritual adultery. Israel thought idols were providing for them. Food, clothing, luxury. But then God says in verse 8, "She did not know that it was I who gave her the grain, the wine, and the oil, and who lavished on her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. They gave his gifts to false gods. The counterfeit, well, it looks glamorous, but it left them empty. And that's what sin always does. It overpromises and it underdelivers. Yeah. Will you tell me in the comments? Will you tell me in the comments if you have found this to be true? But here comes the shocker. Yeah. That wasn't really it. Okay, after exposing sin, verse 14, it begins with therefore. So you'd expect wrath after all of this confrontation, right? You'd expect final judgment. But instead, God says, therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. From I will uncover her nakedness before her lovers, in verse 10, to verse 14, where it says, I will speak tenderly to her. And that's the heart of God. See, the wilderness, it wasn't punishment, it was mercy. It's where lies lose power. It's where performance ends. It's where God whispers to restore covenant love. The same God who names sin also promises restoration. So, here's the reality. God takes unfaithfulness seriously. He strips away idols. He calls out the counterfeit. But his goal isn't destruction, it's redemption. This world, it sells you performance and fantasy. But God will call out your idols. But he only does it so that he can draw you back into his covenant love. It's so good. It's so good. All right, so if you're ready to go deeper into this kind of training where scripture doesn't just sit on the page, but it actually like transforms how you live, I want to invite you into the Crown and Sword Bible study curriculum. It's this Bible training that equips you to renounce fear, walk in the spirit of power, embrace your royal identity in love, and then engage in the warfare with the spirit of discipline. It's pretty in-depth, really cool. You can find the link in the description. Highly recommend it. Thanks for digging into these concepts with me today. I hope that this really blessed you and like maybe stirred something fresh in your spirit. Be sure to follow along for the next videos in this Hosea 2 series. We're just getting started. And don't forget to check out the whole chapter.